Hello, team, and welcome to the Imperfect Image Podcast number 25, a quarter of a century.
Whoa, 25 already. That's awesome.
I know.
That's a pretty significant number.
That's like an age where you would expect someone to be mature and shit, but, we live in a world where that's not even true.
Yeah, that was probably true when we were kids, but that is definitely no longer the case.
No.
I've been having a lot of conversations about that in general with people at work who are having kids that are kind of reaching that stage of life, and they're like, what is wrong with these people?
I'm thinking by 25 these days, you've tried about 6 different YouTube ventures. And then we just have to see what happens from there.
And you feel very hard done by. Like the world's really had a hard time adjusting to who you are as an individual.
Well, I would say, given what I see at work, by 25, you've just realized that the world maybe isn't going to hand you everything, and you actually might have to work for a living.
And that's a really hard moment to have to come to terms with, I think.
I guess so. I don't really understand that.
Yeah, considering where you and I both were at 25, it is hard to follow. Well,
yeah, I don't have a rebuttal for that. Actually, yes, it is very hard to understand.
Well, as usual, sorry for the delay. I would mostly blame me for that, as usual. My schedule is not getting better, but I think we've just had a hard time. We've both been busy, lots going on in life, and
I have nothing going on in life.
Okay, well, we'll come back to the Ashley blame.
It's not that I have nothing going on in life. I just would rather blame you.
Okay, perfect.
But
I can accept that blame.
This time we can blame technology, because I don't understand why toggling your computer on and off makes such a huge difference in things working.
Yeah, we had to take about 10 extra minutes before this call just to get the audio working, and the only answer was turn the computer off.
But it's not like I changed anything. I didn't do anything different. I don't get it.
Well, I'm imagining you weren't doing heavy-duty usage of your computer prior to this call. I mean, you might have recorded a couple podcasts on your own, but I don't think you're working this thing to the max.
I don't know how to work a computer to the max. I don't play games. I don't even play Minesweeper on this thing.
Wait, you're not playing Fortnite most nights when you get home?
So let's get started with the show.
Yeah, we have a good show today. I think we have some exciting things to talk about. Just recently came back from Mexico, so...
Exactly. So if we wait 2 months every time, then we should have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we'll always have something to interest you guys with, right? It's perfect.
See, this is how we're keeping it positive, people. Keeping it positive.
So back when the group of us went to Mexico in February, Brad and I at that time basically booked this trip that we're just back from, because it just didn't work for him to come in February. And I mean, it was booked prior to him anyway. Mm-hmm. But he was like, okay, I need a taste of this. So yeah, we had our week. And by taste of this, I mean Mexico.
Gotcha, right.
Yeah, because that was a little bit vague.
Yeah, well, it was suggestive.
Although anyone that's been listening long enough probably knows, if we're being suggestive, we're probably actually toning down what really occurred.
Touché. Please elaborate on Mexico.
Well, this was my first time going to Cancun. I flew into Cancun. I've always only done the Pacific side. So
that's the east side?
Yes. Yep. And, everyone's got a preference, it seems. I've always only done Pacific, and you'll talk to people and they'll be like, yeah, Pacic's my favorite. Or I'll be like, oh, I really like the Mayan side. Or there's always a preference. So I was really expecting some big revelation. No, I could go either way.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. It's kind of like a car or a bike or something like that. Unless you're really into cars or bikes, it's fucking mode of transportation. Like, whether I drive my car or I drive Lauren's car, I get there. There's things I like about hers. There's things I like about mine. Mine's more a nostalgia thing. Hers is simply because it has an auxiliary jack and I can listen to podcasts easier. But it doesn't really matter. And but Mexico, okay, so you go down, it's hot, there's sand, there's booze. Like, I'm a happy boy.
Well, and that's basically the criteria that fulfilled me thinking that this place was just as nice as Puerto Vallarta. So
what I liked, the one thing that you said that I thought was really cool is that they had a different drinks menu. It seems like everywhere we've been, all 2 times, it's the same drinks menu.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they had a menu sitting there when you went to the bar that did have some things I'd never heard of before. So, you know, just going to a new resort and having some new ideas is great. The only thing is I don't think those drinks would ever travel to another resort. You know, they had one called the Riviera Maya. I'm pretty sure if I went to PV and said, hey, I'll have a Riviera Maya, they'd be like, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah. Week was perfect weather-wise.
Good.
And that's really all you can ask out of a Mexico trip, I think. So.
And then you said the last day you got some rain?
Yeah, and it was a day that we weren't even supposed to be there. We got delayed a day.
I'm not even supposed to be here today. What movie?
Movie?
What movie?
What do you mean, what movie?
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Oh, Clerks.
Thank you.
I missed half of that, and then we're going to be talking about a movie later on in the podcast, so I thought you just totally jumped. It was like, it's time for the movie.
I think that should be a staple of our podcast, is that there's no segues whatsoever. Just straight. What movie did you watch this week? And you're like, I was just talking about my marriage.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's going on here?
I was crying. My grandmother died.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, no, and that was the first time I'd really seen a lot of rain in Mexico, and it is true what they say. It was like monsoon-style rain at first. I was looking out the window, and I thought, okay, wow, it's really pouring. And then by the time we checked out of the room, it was sunny, and there was like no wetness even hardly.
Well,
so
I hear okay. It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Right. That's a life lesson that translates to Mexico as well, apparently.
It must, yes. As well as the rain in Spain stays mostly on the Mexican beaches.
Do you just sit at home and think of these things?
I sit at home a lot. But
it's part of your dad joke repertoire, I think. You also alter puns or sayings.
Yeah, I think I've been groomed pretty well for the dad joke thing.
Oh man, yes you have.
I got a lot of good dad qualities, I think. Like they're really about to come out.
You're about to really show those off.
Like my way of just dadding over everybody in my life. Now I'll actually have something to dad over.
What does that mean for the rest of us?
Well, what it means currently is we haven't actually touched on this subject at all in any podcast. I've kept it quiet for, you know, those 3 listeners from around the world who we don't know. I'm having a baby.
Yay!
And by that, I mean my wife Lauren is having a baby.
Yes, Jordan has not been a medical marvel specifically.
No. Well, I think I am, though. I think I'm pretty special.
Which part of you?
I'm going to go intellect. I think my intellect is pretty special.
But you have to think about it for a while, so that tells me you had a few choices there.
Well, the thing with a high intellect like mine is that you can rattle through millions of choices in a brief few seconds. It seems like I'm pausing, but I'm actually going through all of the universe in my brain to come up with the perfect answer.
So your brain is almost as good as a computer.
Much better than the computer that we just had to restart to get the fucking audio started.
Right.
It's not like I have to go to sleep to figure out an answer to an exam question.
That's awesome. So yeah, Brad and I had one sloppy day. I really don't think either of us thought we would have that day. We were drinking consistently, of course, but I find in Mexico, for the most part, you just kind of settle into a steady state of alcohol, and you don't really necessarily have to be sloppy to really enjoy yourself. But we picked one day that we didn't realize we were picking until we were both quite sick later, and yeah, we had our day of fun, so that's always good.
Would you
say
Mexico
trip is complete.
Was that mid-trip?
No, that was actually nearing the end of the trip because we got there on Sunday and our excursions were Wednesday, Thursday. And on Tuesday, we rented a beach cabana. So we kind of only had one full day on the resort by the time Friday rolled around. So anyway, Friday was the day and we were leaving Sunday. So then Saturday, last full day, we kind of took it somewhat easy.
Right. See, I always find by the end of the trip, like I think it was maybe second last day, because last time we went, we left in the afternoon, hey?
Yeah.
And I think second last day, I remember getting some drinks, but not even really wanting them.
Yeah, totally.
Kind of burnt out of booze, but you feel like you have to get your money's worth.
Yeah,
and you feel like your liver isn't quite destroyed yet.
Well, and I mean, a lot of the drinks you have, of course, are frozen sweet blended drinks. And at the start, when you're trying fun things, and I find a shift near the end where it's like, yeah, I'll have a Cuba Libre, please.
Yes, that's exactly it. Like you go through Banana Sexy and all the sweet stuff for a couple days, and then you slowly gravitate. Like this was what I did last time, was I gravitated towards the Cuba Libre or just a rum and Coke. And then by the last couple days, it was just like, give me a shot of tequila and I'm going to sip on this for a while. I just can't take the sweet and salty and everything. Just too much syrupy,
Yeah, it's a lot of indulgence just on the drink side. Well, so our sloppy day, we had breakfast, but then we were out by the pool for the day and drinking in the pool. And then we were fully intending to go to dinner and a show, but that did not occur. We just went back to the room and went to bed.
I love it.
I mean, I got up the next morning and I was like, I haven't eaten in over 24 hours. Like, it had been a long time by the time we ate again. And I wasn't hungry. And I'm like, how is that possible? Because I'm not someone who really goes a long time without getting hungry. Even if I've had a massive meal, I'll still get hungry at a regular interval. So,
well, and just kind of your reasonable intellect says, hey, you should eat something.
Yes, exactly. But I was like, how is that possible? And then I'm like, oh, well, you were drinking, but you were drinking things that were probably, 300 calories each after you factor in all of the blended drinks. Because we were looking in the book and ordering new things. Yeah. So they were all, probably 300 calories on their own. So
what
it's
amazes
like, okay, well,
I
got calories.
Last time was watching how they make stuff, and they take, I'm trying to remember what the hell it was. It was like I don't want to say a banana syrup, but it was like a banana flavored, almost like a heavy cream. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was trying to, not like whipping cream, but like that heavy cream where you pour it out and it's just like condensed milk. That's what I'm thinking of.
Absolutely, yep.
Oh man, and I mean, tasty as hell, but Jesus Christ, my intestines.
See, and I think we were telling you the other day, I was missing that cream. I didn't say that specifically, but they were using fresh banana. And at first that sounds like a really great thing, but I actually had to stop having any drink that had banana in it because it was, I don't know, Brad said the bananas tasted like fish. I didn't get that vibe, but it's like, I felt like I was drinking a smoothie and not in a good way.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I don't need to be having a smoothie with my alcohol. Like, it was like a health smoothie with alcohol in it. And I'm like, no, this is actually creepy and it doesn't feel right.
Nothing about
Give
this
me the banana condensed milk.
Yeah, no kidding. So as we're talking here, I'm going to write down a couple of notes because I was saying you were going to lead the podcast, but I think I have a good way to do this today.
Ooh,
so
that's exciting.
If you describe what a beach cabana is, then while you're describing that, I can write down a couple notes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got that. And then I have a segue of my own to travel discussions in general, which is a favorite here on the podcast. So on the beach, so our resort actually had a very small beach. There wasn't a lot of sand before the water, but it opened up a little bit to a place where they had the normal chairs and everything like that. So, I mean, it had everything that you needed. But they had little cabanas, probably 12 of them, that basically had a mattress and pillows, and it was like a little beach bed that was totally covered from the sun, so that was nice. And it had wood that surrounded it, so you could put your drinks on there, and, we brought a bag with books and games and stuff. And
is it quieter, or what's the draw?
I think a couple things. More privacy. And yeah, it's a bit quieter. It kind of felt more like a special thing to do than just sit on a beach chair. Like, I guess we had a nap on the bed, all cuddled up, which you're not going to do on the beach chair. It was like kind of a mixture of being out on the beach, but having your own private place as well. Okay. So it's kind of nice that way. And then it had full coverage, like it had a full roof. So, I mean, when the sun was at its hottest, we could get a little bit of reprieve from that and still enjoy the sound of the ocean waves crashing and the nice breeze and everything like that. But, have a little bit of a break from the direct sun because it was hot. I got a lot of sun, actually. I got a big tan on my back, and that was probably the day before that I had done that. So I was really thankful because it doesn't take a lot for me to feel heat strokey. So
see, and I think if you're in the shade in Mexico, there's usually a decent little breeze. And
yeah.
It can keep you a little bit cooler. Like I'm trying to think, even if you just grab an umbrella, you lay under the umbrella for a little while, it can really cool you off from that, too many drinks and too much sun sort of feeling.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. And the day before, when we had gotten our beach chairs, we weren't under an umbrella.
Yeah.
And we were just baking. I mean, we're both pasty. And, but it was good. I mean, trust me, I'm not complaining. It was beautiful and it was absolutely fabulous. But I don't know, it just felt like something that we would do that was different. We had it from 9 to 5, so it also kind of forced us to go spend the day down by the water.
Yeah. Did they bring drinks to you?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, I want that.
Yeah. So, although I actually found the service wasn't that great while we were in there, because I think because it was semi-private and because we were napping a lot, they were probably like, yeah, we'll just leave them alone. So I get that. Oh, the other thing it had a hammock in the beach cabana, which is awesome. And you know how much I love a hammock.
Uh-huh.
So I hopped up into the hammock for a while and had a nap in the hammock. And it sounds like we just napped, but we didn't. We played games and we read a book and, we enjoyed the day. So
I like that
definitely
idea.
Recommended that. Yeah.
And if you can still wander down to the water in that, then that's perfect.
Well, that's the thing. If you were going to do that for the day, it's kind of a good home base for that. So, yeah, no, it was neat.
Oh, that's cool. And was that extra cost, or?
Yeah, it did cost. But
I feel like this trip was a little more expensive than some.
It was probably. I think our resort cost a little more than I would normally pay.
Yeah.
And then, we went on a couple of excursions that were big ticket excursions. Like to rent a fishing charter is a very expensive endeavor. But we've been talking about that since we booked it, and we just knew that we were going to do that. So that was
and as you guys were saying, if you got a few more people, it kind of evens the price out.
Absolutely. Because that's the thing. You could have taken another 4 people on the boat with you, and you're each spending now well below $100 each, which probably still sounds expensive, but again, when you think that 2 people shared that expense, it gets a lot more reasonable the more people you bring on the boat. But we had such a great time and I think there's certain things in life, and this was one of them, where it was like, you focus on the fact of what need does this fulfill? Well, it fulfills the need for, Brad to have a bit of a fishing moment in a year when he hasn't had any, and, is adjusting to that. So it made sense right from the start. We knew no matter what we would go for it. And it was wonderful. We had the best day. And I actually felt like I got my money's worth out of it, honestly, even though it was expensive.
Yeah, I would be into something like that. Even like when we went surfing last time, it was a little bit pricey, a little bit more than I probably would have thought to spend. But when you get good instruction and they know where to take you and that sort of thing, you're putting money into something that you're going to remember for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that is a great example, right? Because that's going to be a memory for you guys forever. And that was really special for Lauren. It was fulfilling something she'd always wanted to do. So
yeah. Well, and now next time, like we go down, if we went to that Marival again, we can just go and rent surfboards and go and play around in the waves.
Yeah, exactly.
You know enough of what you're doing to practice on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
So you had a segue.
Well, I think we all agree that in travel, it seems that you always want to have something on the go, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So, we had Mexico booked, and we'd had it booked for so long that was always our something. But we wanted to do something in January to celebrate anniversary. So anyway, we were thinking about Vegas because Brad's never been.
Sweet.
So, of course, pretty much day after we land, there's a seat sale to Vegas.
No way.
Okay, well, WestJet was doing not just to Vegas, a whole promotion.
Yeah.
And we'd already booked 3 days off work for that time period, knowing that we were going to do something to celebrate, but we just weren't sure what. So anyway, we decided, okay, I guess it's time. So yeah, we booked that. So that's the next thing that we have on the horizon to look forward to.
Where are you staying?
So I don't know that piece yet. I mean, because Brad hasn't been, I said, why don't you look and see what you think sounds fun? Because, I mean, I've had a few experiences down there that I have, I probably have 4 or 5 hotels I've stayed at already. And, I have a lot of opinions on the others. So I thought, let's just see what a blank slate, for Vegas kind of thinks they want to stay in. So
yeah, that's fair.
So he's been looking, but so we'll do that. And then that'll probably be it for bookings for a while, just because, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty right now next year with when our house is going to be done, and I don't want to be off somewhere when we're supposed to be taking possession.
See, I think we're planning next summer, we're probably going to spend a lot of time camping.
Right.
Because the in-laws have put a trailer out in Radium, so that's going to be a lot of the summer.
Like a permanent parked trailer, you mean?
Yes. Yeah, Lucas took his trailer out there.
Okay.
So that's cool. I think that'll give Lauren, since she'll be on maternity leave, she can just jet out there whenever the heck she wants, right?
Yeah.
Get some relax, that sort of thing. And then I think maybe November-ish, we're thinking it would be kind of nice to go do a group trip or something like that. And that's, but that's gonna be up in the air after the baby, kind of see where finances are at. Who knows? I don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, and for Brad and I for next year, it's like, I mean, I mentioned the house, so that's the early part of the year.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, we're going next week to look at a wedding venue with the intent of getting married next fall. So I mean, that's something where, depending on the timing of that, I mean, we'll definitely want to do a honeymoon right after. That would be our plan.
Are you inviting me on your honeymoon?
No, I'm not inviting you on my honeymoon.
Okay, so I don't get to fucking MC your wedding. I don't get to go on the honeymoon. What's in this for me?
Well, I never said for sure that you don't get to MC my wedding. I think when you asked, I probably really quickly said no, but that wasn't really fair. I wouldn't say it's a no. I think I originally had such a harsh reaction because I felt like there would be some other role that you would need to play, but I don't know. You will have a role. I'm just not sure if it's MC or not.
I can take on many roles, Ashley. I'm very flexible. You ever seen me do the splits? Seriously.
I can assign like 5 or 6 roles to you, and you'll handle them all. Is what you're saying?
I could step in as bride. I can do it all.
You would be, oddly enough, a fantastic bride.
Hell yeah, I cry like a bride.
And you work a crowd the way a bride should.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
I got pinpoint accuracy with bouquet tosses.
Right? You've been practicing. When you're when you're home alone.
No.
That's what you work on.
No.
And then, so the other massive wild card for Brad and I next year is that Oh, hopeful. Obviously, Brad more than me, but very hopeful that his surgery is next year.
I thought you were going to say that the Bills make the playoffs.
Well, there's always that. Yeah. So, I mean, if he has a surgery next year, that's a huge wild card.
Yeah, that really... I mean, what would happen if wedding venue was booked and everything, and then they said surgery is going on that week?
Yeah, and I don't know, because, I mean, even Brad was saying in general that, you know, he thought if they were trying to book for a time, because when he has his surgery initially, and I get a lot more holiday time than he does right now with the way that my job is and getting bank time for being on call, I'm hoping to take a decent amount of time off around when he has his surgery, just because, I mean, the first week or two is going to be very hard.
Yeah.
As he, you know, starts his recovery process. But he was saying, because I can't just take any time off whenever I want, it depends on when other people in my group are off, that he was hoping that if, you know, let's say he was going to be done right on kids' spring break in March. Well, I can tell you, being in a group with 3 people who have kids, there's no fucking way that I get to have kids' spring break off. It just doesn't work that way. That he could say, yeah, exactly. Then I'm like, fuck all y'all. But he basically said, well, maybe then I could just say, oh, can we do this other week? And I'm like, oh, I don't know that it's going to work that way.
It's iffy. In my experience in my career with surgeries like that, when you're on a wait list, it's just, here's your date. Figure it out.
So we looked, actually was just going through paperwork today, and we've been getting calls every 2 to 3 months from the bone and joint clinic saying, hey, you're on the referral list. Wait times are about 8 to 10 months from date of referral. Well, he was referred in May, so he should be getting his initial consult January to March of next year. So I'm hoping that gives us some clarity fairly early in the year on what that looks like. Because,
it would be nice, I mean, to have a bit of a date, but even so, you almost, again, in my experience, you're on the referral list, and then you get a call one day saying, like, hey, now you're on this list. And it's kind of up in the air again.
Well, and the first meeting that he has with the orthopedic surgeon is going to be an initial consult. I mean, it's not like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. We're booking your surgery on, June. No, it doesn't work that way. So I agree. It'd be nice to get some sort of general idea. Because, we're going to probably have to almost certainly book our wedding venue and pick a date before we know the surgery date and just cross our fingers that works out okay. So basically, there's just a lot.
I mean, really, 1 week out of 52 weeks, you would think it's not going to land on that. But how many times do you pick up a deck of cards and pull out an ace? Like, it happens.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even just, having said we booked Vegas, part of me just got a little bit, just talking about it, it's like, oh, man, his initial consult, just our luck, it'll probably end up being that week, and
then you just have to pass those tickets off to Lauren and I.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
But it's already paid for, so that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm pretty sure Lauren won't be in any state to want to fly at that point, so I think I'm fairly safe to not have to do that. But
then she can drive. I'll fly.
Good call. Okay, so that was a lot about my life, and I think you had a bit of an idea here, so I'm dying to hear what your notes are.
Well, first of all, what we need to tackle in this episode is, what has this episode been brought to us by?
I'm glad you brought this up. I am currently myself drinking coffee, and it is dosed with Irish cream, and I'm going to go check. I believe I'm having the Carruthers brand of Irish cream.
We're not looking at a Blarney's?
No, but it's Blarney's-esque in that it's off-brand and still just as delicious. Yeah, Carruthers.
I love living in this off-brand world, right? When I get something like Tylenol, I just get the generic acetaminophen. When I get, Aleve, I just go with naproxen. Yep. And when I get Bailey's, I actually just go with Blarney's or something like that. But when you get into that world and you start thinking, okay, well, I have no need to buy the brand name thing with a lot of stuff anyways. Then you start going to people's houses and seeing what they do. When they buy Bailey's and they get like the 1 liter bottle or whatever, and it's like $64, and you just sit there and laugh quietly to yourself. Or I go to my parents' house and my dad always has a leave around because he finds that's the best for, you know, his old man pain.
Yeah, yep.
And then I'm thinking you'd spent twice as much just because you didn't bother Googling what is the generic brand of Aleve or what's the generic name, you know? It's baffling to me.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree completely. And I mean, so we actually, through duty free, we thought, what do we actually need that we want to bring home? And mostly we just wanted an excuse to buy alcohol.
Yes.
And they had a promotion on Bailey's specifically, and we are like, okay, well, we have Bailey's or something like Bailey's in our coffee every weekend.
Yeah.
We're going to buy it. So we have 2 big bottles of actual Bailey's now, but otherwise, yeah, we never buy Bailey's anymore for
but
that
the price
same
you
reason.
get it for in Mexico is completely different than buying double the price here for basically the same shit.
Exactly, yeah. So,
now,
totally agree.
What you didn't mention was what brand of coffee this is being brought to us by.
Well, that is a bit of a complicated question because one of Brad's passions, one of the things he enjoys doing is roasting his own coffee.
Oh, he roasted his beans.
So we haven't really found somewhere local to buy them that isn't expensive because you need to buy green beans, unroasted beans.
Yeah.
So yeah, we ordered like a massive shipment from this company on Ontario that ships for free if you spend enough money, and yeah, we have all sorts of coffee. So I think we're having a Nicaraguan bean right now.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, kind of cool.
It's fancier than my Tim Hortons.
Well, it's fun. Yeah, I mean, he enjoys doing it. And
yeah, everyone's got to have their hobbies.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. So,
speaking of drinks, we're going to take a quick pause while I get a refill, which I didn't really need to say for anyone except the 2 of us because no one will know the difference.
But it's important that they know that you are going to need to pee soon because your bladder is going to be so full from all the coffee.
There's a good potential of that, yes. So I almost cracked a bottle of champagne just so I could have champagne and orange juice because my boring-ass coffee didn't seem so exciting after our Bailey's conversation. We've got a little one in the fridge, and I'm thinking, you know, that's 3 or 4 drinks maybe. Yeah. And it's a fairly low percentage. Like, I could still function for the rest of the day. But then I thought, no, Jordan. You've been doing well. No Sunday drinking.
That's awesome.
Well,
yeah,
we'll see.
It sounds like you've been setting some interesting thoughts around that.
I understand that nutritionally it's smarter to spread it out through the week and not have all of your drinks on 1 or 2 days. Yeah. But, hey, we all do our own.
Yeah, we all do what we need to do.
So, last time when I was alone on this podcast, I was saying it makes a lot of sense to do things in segments. Just seems like it's a fun way to get the whole thing going. So we're going to have a little financial advice chat here. This is our financial advice segment.
Oh,
and in
wow.
this one, we're going to discuss the pros and cons, or I don't know, maybe just pros, or I don't know, maybe just cons of Calgary's Olympic Plebiscite vote.
Ooh, I love that way that you segued into
Not
that.
Not bad, hey? Yeah. I don't know why we're not sponsored on this podcast. Like, we're this is a good product.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody should put their name on this.
So this was your idea, the Olympic Plebiscite talk. So I'm going to let you mostly lead it, and I'm going to chime with like a yeah, like that.
Well, for anyone that isn't local or doesn't pay attention to the news at all, right now the city is gearing up for a vote that they're putting to the residents that is basically asking whether or not we want to continue with potential bid for the 2026 Olympics, is it?
I believe so.
Yeah. So there was a lot of drama in the last week or two because they had originally discussed doing this plebiscite and letting people vote on it and putting it to the people, and then city council was trying to potentially vote no on that and voting no in general. And anyway, it seems like we're going ahead with the vote. So it's interesting to me. I don't know about you, but I don't really remember ever being put up to vote for something like this in the time that I've been a voting adult.
I don't believe we've had anything at all, like in Canada, since we've been of voting age.
Yeah, I don't think so. And, I realize it's not practical to do it often. Obviously, there's going to be a cost to even having this vote.
Yeah.
But this is a fairly big, I don't want to say issue because it's not necessarily negative, but it's quite an interesting question the city is facing. And, I think I'm actually quite for letting the people decide on this one.
I like the idea, considering we live in a democracy. But my problem with the way that we run democracies is there's too many people for it to work overly effectively. It just, in the mindset that I have, where we vote locally and then each municipality or however each riding then adds up in the sum to create the vote.
Yeah.
So you can, it frustrates me that I can vote in someone, for example, say Liberal in my riding, and then they can win, so my vote mattered locally, but through the province or through the country, it doesn't mean anything because someone else gets in. So I feel like I won on one hand, and then I feel like I lost on the other hand. So I like this idea of just having an overall plebiscite, put your vote in, whoever wins, wins.
Well, and, it's interesting because if you select your local candidate and you believe in that candidate for your ward or your riding or whatever level we're speaking of, that's great. But that one individual is now supposed to represent the interests of an entire area.
Yeah.
And, when you're talking about city parks for, Northwest community of wherever, or, roads in that area or things to that effect, or should we build a safe injection site in this area? I mean, okay, I see how that works or is the only way to do that. But here we're not talking about, just because I live downtown and you live in Airdrie, and I don't even know actually if you get to vote because you live in Airdrie.
I do not. That was the bomb I was going to get dropped at the end of this. I don't believe I get a say whatsoever. So my views on this and my conversation here means absolutely nothing.
But to the effect of the neighborhood piece, no matter where you live in Calgary, we all have a different view on if we should go ahead with this or not. Yep. So, yeah, I think it's cool. It's not something you want to see happen with everything. I mean, we can't. Otherwise, there's no point in having government at all if we're all going to vote on everything. It's just, there's no time for that. But it's a neat thing to have put out to the people, I think. So in terms of where I'm going to go with it, I was initially of the camp, and I don't know what part of it. I don't know if it's because I am not someone who originally saw any of the benefits, or I wasn't thinking about the benefits. Okay. And maybe I'm extremely proud of my city and I'm very patriotic, but at the same time, I don't really spend that much time on the Olympics when the Olympics are played. It doesn't mean that I don't think they're awesome, but I'm not someone who sits and watches a ton of Olympics. So, I never really have been personally affected by the Olympics. And my initial thoughts were, no, it costs too much money. It's too much work. It's going to disrupt the city a whole bunch. I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
But I'm at the point now where I am going to vote yes for it. And I think mostly the angle I'm taking on it is that I hope despite everything else, and I know there's a cost, and I'm just not even equipped enough to understand the full impact of that, as most of us aren't, I don't think. But I love the idea of seeing improvements in the city and getting new facilities. And I mean, as someone who loves their city, that's kind of exciting for me.
And it would be exciting to be on the list, the very small list of cities that have hosted twice.
Right. Yeah. That's very cool.
See, when it comes to the financial side of it, there are certain things that I don't think money really matters for. And when it comes to something that grandiose, or you think of GDP, like gross domestic product, when you really think about how much money a country goes through or a municipality goes through, it's to the point that money doesn't almost matter, right?
Yeah.
Every country in the world, minus a very few, work in debt. And I mean, you take the US, there are trillions of dollars in debt. You take Canada, and we may be billions of dollars in debt. There's a point where those numbers don't even exist. They're not even a real thing. So you're playing around, and when people are talking about, oh, this will put Calgary in debt, and it's going to cost the taxpayers $2 billion or something, unless you drastically increase the taxes at the time, I don't see how... It just doesn't even make sense. Like, they're not real numbers anymore. Like, $1 trillion is not a real number anymore, right? Unless you're going to say, we are charging every taxpayer $20,000, and that's how we're going to collect enough money. I just don't know that it actually makes a difference.
And that is exactly how I feel. Because, you know, when I said, like, the financial part, how does that even make sense to a person? That totally echoes how I feel about it. Like, when you're dealing with things that on paper can't even make sense to the average human brain who lives a normal life with their normal salary and pays their small portion of things, it's hard to understand the true impact. And I mean, part of me, I think, takes a little bit of the approach of, well, if we're not having our taxes raised for this, it'll be something else. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we're paying for it partially, yes. But again, I mean, I'm a big proponent of having good services in the city, even if I don't ever use the service.
Yeah.
I think the city is better off for having good facilities. And, you know, from what I've heard of what would need to be either upgraded or built, I think it's exciting. And
I love the idea of having new facilities. And I mean, someone even the other day said basically work the cost of a new arena for the Flames in there.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You know, just fucking hit it all at once. Throw a shit ton of money at it. I mean, our city is known nationwide, worldwide, for the facilities that we still have from the Olympics in 1988. Mm-hmm. So if you upgrade and add to those facilities, it's only going to look better on our city. And in a time where our city's struggling with, you know, I don't want to call it a financial crisis, but it is in some ways, right? I see it in my business. Most people see it. You definitely see it in the oil and gas industry. Why wouldn't you do something that puts us back on that grand scale, right? It's about image. It's not about billions of dollars. Like I said, billions aren't even, it's not even a fucking, I don't even know how many zeros in are in billion. Like, I'm trying to think of it right now. 1 million is 6. So 1 billion is what? 1 billion more zeros?
Yeah, exactly. I feel your sentiment there. I have no idea. I don't know. It's not a real number.
You've been drinking all morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's the alcohol percentage of this? It must be like 1 billion %. It's fucking awesome. I feel amazing.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm going to vote yes. I initially thought I'd vote no, and I've come around to the fact that, you know what? Fuck it.
If I get a choice, if for some reason, like, working in Calgary gave me a choice, I would vote yes. And it's a nostalgic thing, right? It's a nostalgia. It's, at that point, my kid would be, 2026, would be 5 years old or so. That's cool. Like, that's really exciting. And
how did you do that math, first of all? Oh, no, you're right. 6. Sorry, it was not as bad as I thought. I thought you were really off.
26. No, I guess they would be 7. Am I right now?
Well, no, because if they're born in 2019, they'll be 1 in 2020.
Okay, anyways, we're close enough. They will be of an age where this will be insanely exciting, right?
Somewhere on a side note, elite math person, which, first of all, you would never call anyone an elite math person, but let's just roll with it.
On this podcast,
is shaking their head.
I love it because when Lauren listens back to this, if she listens back to this, she's going to pause it, do the math, and go like, well, no, number one, you don't know how many zeros are in a billion, which I'm putting out there right now was a joke, okay? The quick addition, as I was stumbling through a sentence and I have the echo of my voice in my ear from the headphones, was not perfect on the baby thing. However, we'll get back to the point of it, you take all of the kids that are going to be that age, right? Say between 4 and 12. Something of that where you're still really excited about this. And given that we have a young population, that's going to be a lot of kids at that time. You guys are going to have kids by that time. Just the excitement for them versus the zeros, I got to go with the excitement. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I didn't live in Calgary then, and you were 2 when we had, or 1 when we had the last Olympics, whatever. But, you know, there's a pride to knowing your city hosted the Olympics. And like you said, knowing your children or child or whoever, niece, special small friend, whatever you have, knowing that they get to experience it at an age where it actually means something to them. Yeah, it's a cool thought. I could see as a parent. It's like, you know what? Well, and again, some of these facilities are things that a lot of parents with kids right now are going to get their kids out to use, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
Makes total sense. So yeah, we'll wait and see, but it's kind of a neat story going on in the city right now for sure.
So what's your prediction? Is it going to be a yes vote or a no vote? Because I feel like if we put in a bid, we will be the host city. From what I've heard, nobody else is really in the running.
Yeah. I think we're going to vote yes.
I think we will too. I think there's more people that vote based off of heart than there is off of brain, if that makes sense. Right?
Totally.
More people who are going to go, I just think having the Olympics is cool. And those are, I'm just going to say the average person who doesn't sit back and consider political budgets. Versus the few people who, and these people will raise a voice for sure, but the people who will look at the numbers and will say this isn't practical. But I mean, buying a fucking house is not practical either. It's a huge expense and one that you're going to spend 30 years paying off. But we do it anyways because I just want a house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll be interesting. But I agree. I'd put my money on a yes, and we'll see where it goes for sure.
So I have a question for you, Ashley.
Yes, go ahead,
How is
Jordan.
the weather affecting you? This is our segment called How is the Weather Affecting You?
Well, I've got a great answer for that.
Great.
I don't know if you spent a lot of time outside yesterday or any. It was fucking amazing.
Yes, it was.
So the weather's affecting me in a way that, you know what, so my birthday was on Thursday, and normally I'd say 50-50 chance there's snow on my birthday usually, because same with Halloween, right? It's 50-50 that the kids are going out with snow. So no snow on my birthday.
Yep.
And now, I mean, we were out yesterday celebrating my birthday for the day. And I mean, I was in a t-shirt and I was comfortable. That's kind of unheard of.
It is unheard of. How was that affecting you, though? It's
affecting me in a way that's making me very, very joyful. Anytime I can squeeze a last bit of sun and warmth out of, because I mean, even today, I don't know what the temperature is because I'm still in my pajamas. But as I look outside, it's very overcast. Yesterday was sunny and bright, and I am so much more cheerful. So the weather affected me by making me happier. And, you know, I think daylight savings time, hopefully, it's going to make me happier today. It's not as dark in the morning.
Not when you get up.
Well, and that's true. I've been starting working around 8 lately, and we went to Mexico. Yeah, I know, right? We went to Mexico and there was still daylight. And then we come home and we're driving to work in total darkness. So now, I mean, having daylight savings time will actually help that a little bit.
Well, I wake up at 4 o'clock and it's always dark at 4 o'clock. It's always sunny in Philadelphia and it's always dark at 4 o'clock. So the weather has affected me by bringing us into our next conversation, which is a funny little introduction. I went over to the recycling depot yesterday, partly because it was nice out and I thought I'd take the dogs for a car ride, but I had an old printer and a computer monitor that just don't work. So I took them up to the Airdrie Recycling Depot, but I remembered that the Fitzsimmons Brewery is right by the recycling depot. So I took my growler because it was nice out and I was thinking beer. Mm-hmm. And I stopped and I got it's their new cream ale.
Ooh.
Oh, shit nugget. It was delicious. Now, granted, I watched it inside on my couch with the curtains down because it was too sunny and I was trying to watch soccer. But still, the weather affected me in a way that I wanted to go buy a great new beer.
It created need for beer.
Exactly. Brings us to the grossly, amazingly huge craft brew, I don't want to say market. I want to say like movement, craft brewery movement in Calgary.
Movement is a really good way of putting it.
It's crazy. I don't even know how to say it. Like, if you want to go to the pub, you can just go to, a Boston Pizza or the Canadian Brew House or just something standard. But you don't have to anymore. You don't have to go get the same stuff, right? You don't have to. I'll put it this way. If you never wanted to drink a draft Budweiser in your life, you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to go to a place anymore that only gives you that option. If you've gone somewhere and that place does not have on tap at least one local Calgary brewed beer that isn't Big Rock,
yeah,
I'd say you could do better.
But even Big Rock, they've got some different stuff out. Like I can't remember what it was the other. Oh, it was Village. It was Village Brewery. They had they called it a light brown ale. I think it was. It was called Troubadour. Highly suggest that.
Troubadour. Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind. Well, and I mean, that's not even to knock Big Rock. I like Big Rock for what it provides. But I mean, Big Rock's a big brewery now.
It's a big brewery, but I like that they're a big brewery that doesn't just stick to the things they stick to. And no knock against something like Guinness that's, a hundreds of years old recipe and they keep the standard. But yeah. I don't always... Well, I almost never want just a beer from the big breweries. Like I said, Budweiser or a Coors or something like that. Here and there, sure, and it can be handed to me and I'll be happy. But a lot of the time, I just want to try something a little bit different. And maybe something I've never heard of. Or I like the idea of how... when I train someone...
Yep.
I'm trying to find a slightly different way to make an exercise better for them, right?
Right.
So when a brewery goes, you know what? What if we put this little spin on something and we create something completely new? That's exciting to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I know for me personally, this whole craft beer movement had sprung up in Calgary a while ago, but I just didn't hear of it until all of a sudden, let's say 6 months to a year ago, all of a sudden, it's like everybody was talking about it. And I had said to Brad a few times, we have got to go out and check out one of the segments of this movement, because that's what it feels like. It feels like a little movement has sprung up because they're picking communities and a few different shops are opening up in the communities. And, it becomes its own thing. So yesterday we finally did that.
We have a lot of industrial area in Calgary that people don't explore very much. And so if you went down to like our South Soccer Center and then you drove through the industrial area that's around it, there's these little delis and that sort of thing, right? Where they probably do a decent business from people coming from, a mattress warehouse and grabbing lunch at this little deli.
Yeah.
But when I was up at Citizen Brewery the other day in the Northeast, you get groups from businesses coming in for lunch or post-work drinks on a Friday or something like that. Like there's a market out there for little family-run businesses in industrial areas, and I don't know how much that was tapped into before. But if you're in a warehouse or a bay or a couple of bays, you can have plenty of space as well as the right hookups and everything to make your beer. It makes so much sense. It just like it was never done before. You have to have that precedent before you can actually create the industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you needed like a Big Rock and then maybe a Village, and you needed these ones to get a little bit bigger, and then a few people to go, fuck, I hate working in an office, but I love beer, and I'm going to just go out and start this up.
So one of the things I found interesting is, so we did a little pub tour, or not pub tour, but we did a little beer crawl yesterday in the, I guess it's called the Manchester area. So yes. Just kind of south of where we live now, a very industrial area, like you said, just off McLeod Trail between McLeod and Blackfoot. And there were, yeah, exactly. And I think when Brad put together the itinerary, because we had an itinerary yesterday, it was very Ashley-esque. Mm-hmm. He picked 3, but there were a whole bunch of choices in the area. I think there were about 6 that he could have picked from. The second one we went to was called Bourne, Colorado, and we were just chatting with one of the owner's girlfriends. She had come to see how we were doing, and Brad asked, why Bourne, Colorado? Like, what's the name from? And I guess the guy who started it up was from Colorado and moved here, and she was saying his feeling was, the Colorado microbrewery craft beer scene was like 30 years ahead of where we were.
Yeah.
In terms of, this had been established and something that people were doing for years and years before it started here. So when he got here, I think he was, I don't know if she said an engineer, he something to that effect. He got out of it and started Bourne, Colorado. So I thought that was interesting.
It just plays off of that whole, and this is something this is why I like podcasting, right? It's taking something that you're passionate and just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Right? With beer, starting a microbrewery, you're hoping to make money off of it, but the passion is there and the lifestyle revolves around that passion. Right? If we said, okay, fuck it, we're quitting our jobs, we're doing this podcast professionally, we're putting everything into it, it would be like that, right? It would be, I love movies, I love alcohol, I love sports, I love TV, I like talking about deep feelings, that sort of thing. That's what I want to do for a career, and I'm putting everything into it, and that's exactly what these breweries do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's totally true. So yeah, it's we started at a place called Banded Peak, which apparently has been around. Yeah, it's been around a little longer than Bourne, Colorado. It just opened in April, but Banded Peak I think has been around for a few years now. So of course I'm like, really? A few years? Okay, I'm behind more than I thought. But the space in Banded Peak was really cool. And we heard through there and at Bourne, Colorado that they just recently expanded it a bit. And I mean, it was packed. So like you said, I mean, most times in the past when, you're talking to a friend about going out for a drink, you're thinking of hitting a pub.
Yeah.
Well, now you legitimately have these options, and I know you went with your friend a couple weeks ago to, you know what? No, let's go hit one of these tap rooms. And that's exactly what it was.
It gives a different experience. I feel like, have you come to the Roxy in Airdrie with me, the movie theater?
Yes, I have. Yep.
So when you go into the Roxy, it kind of takes you back in time, I think it's 2 screens, and it's just different, right? You stand in a small line and get your popcorn. There's actually a person at the counter that you buy your ticket from. Just little things like that. But that's more of a small community sort of thing where, you know what? Actually, this is perfect. When I want pizza, almost every single time, I'll just Papa John's, Domino's, whatever's got a deal on that day, or kind of whatever we feel like, right?
Yeah.
but everybody has their opinion on what the best pizza in Calgary is, and it's never Boston Pizza or Papa John's or Domino's. It's one of the smaller family-run, I don't know if eclectic's the right word, but it's someone putting their passion into the pizza, right? Like Matador is obviously the best pizza in Calgary and potentially the world. That's not really an arguable matter. I'm just letting you know. But now people are starting to see that in the beer world. I would love one day, if global warming really, really progressed, if we could have vineyards here. I think that would be really cool. But the only way you could do that is if you did it in greenhouses, and that's just not going to be practical.
Yeah, exactly. Nope. Well, our third stop was kind of cool too, because Brad's obviously a big barbecue person, but we hadn't really gone out for any sort of Calgary barbecue. And I mean, there's not a ton that I think is even offered for Calgary barbecue in terms of variety. Yes, there's some places, but the third place we went to was called Patty's Barbecue and Tap House, or whatever it was called.
Paddy? Patty's?
Yeah. Okay. Cool little place, packed. So the Flames were playing last night, as you know, and there were a ton of people in Flames jerseys. It's actually really close to the Saddle Dome, so it makes sense, right? People popping in to have a beer and some barbecue before they go over to the game. So it was kind of cool to see. But insane ribs coming out of this place. So Brad and I shared what they called this half feast, which was a sample of 3 meats and then a couple of sides. And the ribs, like even for Brad, a lot of times I think when Brad goes out for ribs, his thought is, great, but I could make this at home.
Yeah, when I go out for, I don't know. Well, even pizza these days. When I go out for pizza, like, it better be pretty freaking good because I can make pizza.
Yeah, and you guys understand that a lot because when you cook something and you're a good cook, you go out and it better fucking wow you, or else, you feel that, this is fine, but it's what I make.
Our scale is when we make a meal at home, we sit down and one of us often will say, I would pay for this in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? That's the level of cooking at home. So when you do go out to a restaurant, it better like really rock me. It better be amazing.
You want your mind fucking blown. So there were 2 ribs, and they were big ribs. He thought at first, well, these have to be beef or something, but they were pork, but they were massive.
Cool.
And he grabbed his first and bit in, and he was like, oh my gosh. And I agreed with him. It was probably the best rib I'd ever had in my life.
Oh, that's
cool. And I mean, I've had barbecue in Texas and recently, done a few things like that but it was amazing. Kind of neat. You order your food from one counter, you go back and order your beer from another. And I liked that. I would definitely go back. So we should plan something in the city sometime and kind of do a similar thing. And
so there's 2 things I'm going to say about that. One, yes, I'm in for like a little brew pub tour, which would probably be ideal while Lauren's pregnant, so we have a designated driver. Sorry, babe, if you're listening to this, but that's the plan now.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I think I've only been invited over for barbecue once.
You know what? That is true. And that's all. That is probably actually my fault more than anything, because
I agree.
So it's funny. And even just like with my mom, for example, Brad will be like, hey, we should have, X or Y over for dinner. And because, Brad is the cook in our house for sure. It is not me. I can do some basic things. And I mean, I'd like to say that I'm going to work on that more in the house, but he does our cooking. And that kind of works okay for us right now.
Consider that we were just having a text conversation about knives.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. Yes. And you knew if you were going to have a conversation, I guess, with someone in the house about knives, Brad was the person to have that conversation with, not me. Okay. So he's a few times said, we need to have people over. But I find more and more, and I think it's just getting ready to move to the house. Like, one, I have been so busy lately, and I guess collectively we have, because usually that means I'm dragging Brad somewhere at this point in my life. But yeah, we've been busy. And I'm always feeling like the house, and this is just me, I never feel like the house is ready for company. And I almost get in that mentality of, oh, it's so hard to have people over. Like,
you only have 8 square feet. Like, even cleaning it is one Lysol wipe will do your whole apartment.
Oh, I know. And the other thing is adjusting to having cats. Man, like, so Ashley, before she had pets, was like as meticulous as she could possibly be. But I think once you have pets living in your space, you're just like, fuck it at a certain point.
Instead of going, is the house clean? You then go, is the house acceptable? Like, it's only going to get so good. Yes.
And I think one of the things about having a small place and having 2 cats and having 0 carpet is, some places with a little bit of carpet and larger square footage can hide a little bit of that, right? Because there's just more surface area. But here, there's such a small amount of surface area and no carpet that I just feel like I never, ever get ahead of it. So, yeah. And I mean, small things, right? Like, I've never had enough plates for hardly even Brad and I to eat off of, let alone company. And I just start getting in my head about, oh, well, we're not going to do a great job. But one of the things we're really looking forward to with the new house is just feeling like, sharing in life in general, some of the responsibility of hosting things.
In the new house, what you're going to have to get used to is basically a text from me saying, hey, I'm coming over later. I filled the growler. And you need to not have plans so that we can all just sit on the deck.
Right, yeah.
Right? The plans are, whose deck are we on tonight?
Yes, exactly. Well, I know one of the things in general, when I move is, I need to create more space in my life. Because right now, between, the demands I've put myself under at work and just working on the social club Christmas party and then trying to finish up my distress center commitment and then always feeling like I'm working on something, there's very little space to have those in between moments to enjoy life. And I think one of the things about living in Airdrie that I'm actually really looking forward to is that it somewhat forces the need for that, unless you really want to make things hard for you.
What it gives you is it gives you a buffer, right? So I think of the one guy that I work with that lives across the street from work. If that was me, and in the role that I'm taking on now, it would basically mean that I could leave for a few hours, and then I could come back and do a few more hours work. I feel like with Airdrie, it's you finish work, you drive for your 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the day, and you're home, and that's it. Like, I tell people all the time, I go to work, I finish work, I come home, and that's my day. There's not this busy, I got to get 900 things done sort of thing. I diddle around the house a little bit, but there's not I'm going to go out for dinner, and I'm going to volunteer, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. It's very simple life. It's very, like I said, there's a buffer.
Yeah.
That drive kind of gives you a buffer.
And I think, just the way that I'm built, and even from the time that I lived in Airdrie with you guys, that is something I'm always going to struggle with. But I think right now, having a bit of that buffer is a good thing. Like, I'm working on the distress center so that I'm done before I actually have to move, right? Because the last thing I need is to be getting done a shift at the distress center at 10 o'clock and then moving.
I think too,
not moving, getting up to Airdrie.
Your social life is going to change a little bit. Like, we're going to have a kid, and I know that basically being my sibling, you're going to want to spend time with the kid.
Yeah.
And I can see, I'm not kidding, where it's going to be text, whose house are we at tonight? Like, dinner at your place, dinner at our place. It's just going to change. It's going to be a very, very different situation for you guys especially, but somewhat for us as well, where I'm going to have to get used to not being in bed exactly at 8 o'clock every night.
Well, yeah, your life's about to change a lot for a lot of reasons, that's for sure.
I'm transitioning, did you hear?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we may have to hold off on the movie chat because we're well over an hour now. But if we plan a time, then we could potentially do an entire episode on TV and movies, and even music, actually, because I think we've got some new stuff here.
Yeah, I agree. And good time. Good time to cut it off because the Buffalo Bills need to meet their maker and lose another game here in about 20 minutes.
Who are they with today?
They're playing the Bears. And yeah, but the thing is so the big problem with the Bills is they have no quarterback. They have no quarterback because their young rookie that they were using is out with an arm injury.
Yeah.
And then they had picked up some old guy, essentially. Yep. I mean, he's not that old, but he was supposed to mentor the young guy, and they had to put him in because they had no one else, and he's out on concussion watch now. He actually did okay last week. We were almost going to maybe hold our own against the Patriots until he threw an interception. But, I mean, it was a good game up until then. So now he's out. So the only guy we have left, Peterman, I think Brad said in 80 attempts or 90 attempts, he threw 8 or 9 interceptions. Like, it's ridiculous.
So what you needed to do, you needed to preface this with, this is our segment called This Week in Sports. Come on, Ashley.
I know, I'm still learning. You're right.
Get it together. So
okay, I'll do better for next time.
For the Bills right now, this is the time where some fucking dude off the street that they found in a playground, played by Mark Wahlberg in a future movie, gets his chance and just lights it up, takes him to the playoffs, conference finals, and everyone's like, oh my God, he's going to do it. And then career-ending injury. But you know what? Happy story because his kids are proud of him.
You are exactly right. You nailed the nail on the head there.
What's more likely is they're going to take like a third-string middle linebacker, throw him in, and they're going to lose like 44-0.
Wow, and that's what it feels like with Peterman, who is a quarterback and apparently practices really well, but just cannot play for the life of him. So, yeah, when I heard it was Peterman in today, I was like, okay, we'll probably watch the first half, and if it's a blowout, if it gets to the point where it's so bad that there's just no hope, it's almost more painful as a fan than anything. I know Brad just says forget about it. So
in the future, okay, we're going to do the deep thought segment here. Mm-hmm. Deep thought. In the future, you could say, hey guys, we're going to be watching the Bills today. Do you want to come over and watch that? And we'll probably say no because I don't like doing things. But, maybe.
Okay, perhaps that will happen.
And then barbecue.
And then barbecue.
And then I somehow have to get up for work tomorrow because I'm going to drink like 24 beer during the game.
I will keep that under advisement. That's a great idea.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and joining us on our 25th episode.
A quarter of a century, hey? Like, we're really getting there. We're going to hit the big time here soon.
I think so.
I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe a brewery wants to sponsor us.
Yeah, exactly. We'll drink your beer.
What would happen if I looked into that? Like if I emailed a few people and said, hey, we have a podcast up and coming. We've got a few listeners, grows all the time. Huh. That's a thought.
Something to think about for sure.
Okay. Well.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Yes, enjoy the week.
Episode 26.
You betcha.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.